look, OK, what's your hot take on what happened last night, then?
Well, I think this is probably terminal for Boris, is what my hot take is. And I don't think you need to use my judgment on that. I think you only need to use the judgment of Boris's own campaign team on that. I mean, yesterday they were quite clear, this is Boris's own supporters, were quite clear on 2 points. One, that he had to do better in the confidence vote than Theresa May had done. And his supporters were also being clear to myself and colleagues and others that they expected the number of people voting against him to be kept below 100 and well below 100, and obviously it ended up being 148. So on the sort of the standard that Boris himself and Boris's own team set, I mean, last night was a terrible night for him, and as I said, probably a terminal one.
Yes, and just explain to us what you mean by terminal, or what terminal looks like. Do you think he'll continue until the end of this parliament, until the next general election, maybe resign before the next general election? Does this mean he will now face lots of opposition and lots of rebellion from his own backbenchers? What does terminal look like for Boris?
Well, you're certainly right about rebellion. I mean, it's quite clear that the rebels are not simply going to go away, and there were so many of them last night that there are sufficient numbers to, if they choose to, and I think some of them will choose to play havoc with Boris's legislative agenda such that it exists. But obviously, I mean, as you've been reporting, there is a desire by Boris and people in Number 10 to move on from this. But the question is, what are they moving on to? The next thing we've got are the 2 electoral tests, the 2 big electoral by-election tests. Everyone I'm speaking to expects the Conservatives to lose both of those, so that will again increase the pressure on him. Then obviously we're in the midst of a massive cost of living crisis. Again, nobody I know thinks we're going to be coming out of that in the short term. So the question is, how can Boris produce some sort of political reset? Now, he could reshuffle his cabinet, but all that will do is place more discontented people on the backbenches, create more discontented people who aren't in government. So I'm not quite sure kind of what the circuit breaker is.
Well, I get all of that. Look, I absolutely get all of that, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. But I think there might be a simpler option, which is just to go to a public vote, because actually, there isn't an alternative, is there? We can't vote for Keir Starmer because we've got absolutely no idea what he stands for or anything. The Lib Dems, all right, it's lovely, but you can fit them all in the back of a Nissan Micra. The SNP, I mean, no one here is going to vote for them. So, I mean, actually, is it quite simple? Boris just goes to a public vote and goes, have it then.
Well, he could do, but there's a couple of problems with that. One is, as I said, we are in the middle of a cost of living crisis, so you're going to have to expect the public to completely ignore that. You'd be having an election coming straight off the back of a vote in Parliament where 148 of Boris's own MPs don't think Boris is fit to be Prime Minister. It would be very clear why Boris was holding the election. It wouldn't be because it's in the interest of the country. It would purely be an election that was framed as being in the interest of Boris Johnson. I think a number of your criticisms of Keir Starmer are fair, but I don't think even Keir Starmer would miss a political opportunity like that, to be honest. That is the sort of scenario that Keir Starmer would absolutely love to have a general election in, as would the other opposition parties.
No, fair enough. I just wanted, because you said that, obviously, he could do his greased pig routine, couldn't he, and wriggle out of this, I suppose. But maybe that's a slightly more direct way of doing it. Do you think Rishi Sunak voted against Boris last night?
I've no idea. I mean, the one thing I do know is Rishi Sunak was very much missing in action yesterday. I mean, we had a number of members of the cabinet who went on and did, a significant broadcast around. Rishi Sunak wasn't one of that number. Liz Truss wasn't one of that number. Michael Gove wasn't one of that number. And I think it's telling the way that so many of the cabinet's big beasts, at the moment of maximum jeopardy for Boris yesterday, suddenly disappeared. And I think that's another reason why, as I said, I think this is a terminal situation for Boris.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.